digital transformation is actually about survival, staying on the market?
It's a great trigger for the companies to question, are they doing things right? Are they asking the right questions? Because if you see that your key metrics aren't moving in the right direction, then obviously you need to challenge how you are doing things.
How does one become aware of that?
Be open-minded, and I think this is the prerequisite for the companies if they want to change. And if you think there's no other way, explain why. Because there might not be another way, but maybe we need to change some business processes, like the way how business decisions are made. And this is what actually happens in the overall process.
3, 2, 1. Petra, welcome.
Hi, Sven.
You are our third guest from Resonate. Resonate was here about a year ago. Both Dava and Svetlana were here. How's Resonate doing now? What's happening?
Of course, a lot of things at the same time. We're growing slowly but steadily, bringing in great product managers and designers. What's a hot topic right now is that we are organizing a panel on enterprise innovation in Reykjavik. So if you're interested in that topic, and I believe you are, check it out on LinkedIn in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because we'll share some great takeaways from that. What else? We've deepened our collaboration with larger companies in Iceland and Croatia as well. Just challenging them on their processes and the digital solutions they use. A lot of things, you know. I can talk about it more, but...
You're always circling around Iceland.
Yeah, this
Pretty
is
much.
pretty much. It's not our core, of course, but a lot of companies we work with are actually based in Iceland.
Yeah, one of our guys from sales is actually going to be there a week after you. So we're also, you know...
Okay. We might not
Iceland.
overlap,
Yeah.
but who knows?
Okay, how did you end up in Resonate?
I don't know. I think, okay, so I started as a developer in Ericsson. And I think those questions, you know, they were always floating around my mind. Why am I building this? Who will use that? Why do we need that? Actually led me to companies who are more user-oriented. I mean, who are maybe faster and more flexible in the way they work. So I think that curiosity also eventually led me to Resonate.
So you were actually a product-minded developer.
Yeah.
You weren't just a code monkey.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I hope other developers won't get offended
Yeah.
right now. But yeah, I was always asking some questions, which eventually led me to being a product owner and now product manager in Resonate.
Okay. What are you working on now?
Couple of things, but they're all are kind of based around the similar things or similar framework, you know, talking to users, understanding the user needs, talking to business stakeholders, and then eventually designing and defining the product that will solve real problems. Okay. So it's also like improving the internal processes, but also the end customer experience.
So you're actually dealing with digital transformation? Yes.
No way, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so digital transformation. We're going to talk about that today. It's quite often overlooked, or people aren't aware of it, and people often think that it has to do only with technology. And it's not only that, it has to do with strategy, with leadership, and let's say with the whole mindset. You know, if you're not ready to go through digital transformation, then that's not going to end up well. So what's your experience with all of that?
Okay.
You know, let's just actually define, you know, what I said. What's digital transformation? What does it mean? Yeah.
Yeah, so when you Google it, you know, you get it's applying the digital solutions to your processes or the value you want to create to your users, right? And I think, digital transformation is out there, right, for what, 20
years,
30 years, something like that. And I think most of the companies have already went through a couple of rounds of it. They went through a lot of technology upgrades, so they are in it for a long time. I don't know, they moved to Angular JS, they added the BI layer, they moved from Oracle to Salesforce. So it's already happening. And I think what you said, it's about the mindset as well, but also about the innovation. It's the digital innovation that we see with the companies we work with is happening right now. It's about not which technology should we use, but how we can make our processes or our end product 10 times better, be it faster, less time consuming, 10 times more profitable, whatever that definition is for the companies.
And I think a lot of people think that digital transformation only means, just getting, let's say, data from paper to a computer.
Yeah.
And that's not it. It's much more.
Exactly. It's not the point that everything needs to move from analog to digital or from manual to automated. Maybe some things can be done on paper, even though I don't think people use paper that much anymore. Not everything needs to be automated. It's more about recognizing things in the process or in the product that are opportunity, where you can improve, where you can spend less time on some repetitive tasks and instead of focusing on activities that add value.
Okay, so how does one become aware of that? And by that I mean, a lot of people aren't even aware that they need to go through digital transformation in a way that they can, improve some processes. They don't know the problems they're having, and they mostly, I think they focus, on finding the solution, but not focusing on the problem. And I think when Daur was here last year, he mentioned, he said that don't focus on solution, focus on solving the problem.
Yes.
So how does one become aware?
Okay. From our experience, I think they are aware of the problem. They know that they are investing a lot of time and money and effort, but things are not moving. They are hitting the wall. So they still get some negative user feedback. There's a drop-off in the usage of the product. Things internally are inefficient. So they're aware that something is off. They know, I think, where the problem is, but they don't know the solution. And I think the awareness here we are talking about is more about how to solve that problem that you're facing right now. So how to make them aware is, I think, focusing them on what do we need to do, where are we kind of efficient, what slows us down. And here we actually recognize the whole problem and then pick the solution that best fits our process, not the other way around.
Would you say that some of them realize that that's too late? Because digital transformation is actually about survival, staying on the market?
It's necessary, absolutely. And maybe we can also call it digital innovation, right? Because you have to improve all the time your product and your processes in order to stay in the market. Because they will come, for example, for those traditional enterprises, they are a long time in the market. They are experts, but there will come some digital first products that are not experts, but they are a pro in the user experience. So they learn from, I don't know, hospitality experts or sales experts, and then transfer that knowledge and that processes into products, digital products that deliver a great user experience. So I think that's where traditional enterprises need to recognize the importance of the user and solving the real problems, not just basing everything on internal requests, for example.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, actually, digital transformation isn't a whole process. It might be, but in some cases, it's just a part of it. Yeah. And now that you mentioned enterprises, I read last week, I found out that CNN, big TV house, powerhouse, they actually invested $300 million into their CNN Plus streaming service. And when they launched it, it was a total failure. I think they had about 10,000 users the first month. And I mentioned that because you said that they are in the game for for a very long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're doing.
They know what they are doing.
I mean, they were. Let me just finish. They were aware that they can, let's say, expand in a new niche, but it was actually a complete failure.
Yeah, and that's because they are too close to their current way of working, too close to the habits. They have the assumptions, which at some point were valid, right? But like during the decades of work in that industry, for example, for them, they're kind of distancing themselves from the actual users. I don't know if they ever spoke to those users.
I don't think they did, because that wouldn't happen. Because I heard about, I think, $3 million. Then I heard it was $300 million.
Yeah.
Which is quite a hefty amount of money.
Yeah. And this is what it's not a surprise for me, because this is what we see. They kind of are aware they need to solve something, but everything is based on the assumptions. Who actually talked with users the last time? And your assumptions might be right. You might actually say, well, I can act as a user, I can book a room in a hotel, I know what I want, and that's true, but you're only one individual. Like, we need to hear other perspectives as well to see if your assumptions are valid.
I think I just remember last year when I was here, he mentioned one of your clients had a dental clinic. And I think it was, he had an idea to have a social media platform, something where a user can connect, which was, and when you did the research and everything else, it turned out that wasn't needed at all. So I think it connects to this story.
Yeah, you can validate your ideas. It's perfectly fine to have an idea, to have an assumption, but why not talk to several people and actually see what they need?
One of the things that I mentioned before I started recording is that companies, I think, become more aware that they need go through digital transformation when they see the return on investment. If we're talking, let's say, from a financial perspective, yes, they can see, okay, so we saved that much money compared, to, let's say, a couple of years ago when we were having the old process set up and we were actually losing money. Same as time.
Yeah, that's the result. That's the end result that everyone wishes to achieve, right? And I think it's a great trigger for the companies to question, are they doing things right? Are they asking the right questions? Because if you see that your key metrics aren't moving in the right direction, then obviously you need to challenge how you are doing things and running all the initiatives.
Okay. Company awareness, I mean, we both didn't know where to place it, but it's one of the challenges in the digital transformation. What are the other ones? There are a lot of them, I'm sure.
A lot of them, but we can see some patterns. Even though if they are aware, because they wouldn't be running initiatives if they weren't aware of the problem, right? But if we are talking about more complex or bigger companies, they have a structure, right? They have a lot of departments, a lot of maybe siloed processes, and this is one challenge, those silos. So if we look at different departments, they all have their own KPIs, goals, processes, and that's fine. They are doing their best, but in their own silos, right? So if you even have someone who can connect the dots and look at the whole process holistically, they don't have the time or the capacity to follow it through the detail. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge that they're facing. It's also different priorities, right? Everyone is competing for the attention, for the budget. So it's all about who will win, but not will those initiatives actually move the needle for the business, or do we need to join the forces between the departments? And this is what we see, along with that distance from the actual user that we mentioned.
You work both with smaller companies and enterprise level. What would you say are the biggest differences between those two?
Okay.
I mean, enterprise companies are seasoned players that, pretty much have their processes baked in, but small companies, I mean, they have a lot to learn. I know it depends. It always depends.
It always depends.
But what's your experience with that?
I mean, for the enterprises, for example, they have the baked processes, but they are, from our experience, also willing to change. No, they are not looking at it as their own baby and set in stone, because if they recognize the problem, they are open to change. So, but I think they are in a harder position than smaller companies, just because of that size, right? That silos, that different initiatives that are being run at the same time, where smaller companies don't have that. They have a few people representing different parts of the company, for example, sales, marketing, product, design. We get everyone around the table, and the decision making is much faster.
Yeah, I can guess. I mean, probably with the enterprise level, it has to go through different levels. So people can realize what's happening. And now, as you said, people get around the table, and then you go through, let's say, product discovery, together with them.
Yeah.
And it's much, much easier.
I would say the process from our end is the same, right? But maybe the preparation and like people gathering takes more time when you're working in a bigger company than in the smaller ones.
Okay, I read somewhere that about 70% of enterprise level companies fail to go through digital transformation, and that research was done by multiple consultancy firms. So, do you think that's a high number? And that's, I think, and that was about maybe 2-3 years ago. That statistics.
What did the failure mean to them?
Yeah, that's I didn't find what it meant, but maybe. What do you think?
I don't know. My assumption is that maybe they didn't move the metric. Who knows?
Okay.
Maybe the people aren't feeling better about it. Maybe they're just, if we are talking about the employees, maybe they're just forced to use new products, but they have to work around them because it doesn't match their job. They didn't maybe deliver the value to the end customers. My assumption is that they're, but that's the thing, if you can be in a digital transformation, but you don't see any impact, right? Because the effort doesn't equal the impact, right? Not if it's based on the assumptions and silos and biases. So we need to look at that article, but my assumption is that if you measure your success with those things that I mentioned, then you might consider that a failure. But that's a very strong word. No, I'm careful when
maybe not failure, but going slower than they expected.
That might be the trick, and the market is getting more and more competitive. They are aware they need to step up their game. And I don't know. I think the main challenge is that creating those digital products is not their core business.
Okay, yeah, I see what you. I mean, there are non-tech centric companies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And why to blame them? They are good at what they do. They are the experts in their industry. They don't have to be experts in creating digital products or transforming the processes into the digital solutions. So I think companies are recognizing that, and this is why they are calling us, for example, to help them with that?
I actually got that from a YouTube video, and I think the speaker later mentioned that why did it fail? Because a lot of them are actually afraid to experiment. A lot of them are, let's say, hot-headed, and I mean, they're afraid to invest money. It costs money and time, but I think in the long run, there might be more benefits than they have.
Yeah. I mean, regarding those investments, they are already investing, right, continuously. Maybe is the perception, okay, another project that needs to solve the same problem, you know, but those previous four didn't solve it. So maybe it's that fear that nothing will change again, and I'll again spend the money.
Right.
But this is something that can be, from our end, easily solved.
How do you approach those problems? It's a big question, you know. I think it's complex.
Yeah.
Questions, you know, through questions I can presume. But what's your tactic here, strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have a tactic, a strategy. It isn't just a freestyle, you know, depending on the company. There are proven frameworks that we follow. We start with talking to users, but first those stakeholders in the company, you know, because we are not the experts. Let's imagine that some hospitality chain hires us to help them build a digital solution that supports their sales process, for example. And we need to first talk to those stakeholders to better understand how does the success look like for them. If we won't define the success for them, we can help them, but they know what they want to achieve. So we talk to them, we want to find out what are the internal constraints, because we also don't want to be blind to them. We will design the ideal process and the solution, but then it's the prioritization, right? You need to have that reality check, what's feasible, what's not. And yeah, just learning about the risks and the assumptions they might have. So that's the first step. Then we need to talk with the users. So I think I already mentioned it can be improving the internal processes or the end customer experience. So we either talk with employees. Let's imagine the sales rep. We will ask him, how do you sell the services? And we are not interested whether he's using some fancy tool or Excel files. We want to know how is he selling the services, regardless of.
So in this case, how is he getting guests to a hotel?
Exactly, from step zero. Like, what information do you need? What helps you most? What slows you down? What's causing you frustration? So we don't care how they do it. We want to know what they need to be the best at their job, you know. And then we find out, of course, they can use Excels, like the tools. And when we look at those tools, I think we don't judge. We just look for the information that's beneficial for them in the process. That's an input for us, not the tool itself, but the info they lack or they find most valuable currently. And I just remembered common situations. So when they walk us through the process, we always or often have a comment, well, actually, I don't know why I'm doing this in that part of the process. It's how it's always done. And then we're like, okay, there's an opportunity for improvement. And these are the things we want to catch, because maybe that's important to mention. It's not about in the digital transformation that you digitalize your process and keep the problems. You map the process one-on-one, because you'll end up with the same problems. It's when you're doing the transformation that you optimize the process as well. And this is what we, with those interviews with either end customers or the employees, want to do, like catch those inefficiencies in the process, and then challenge those on the workshop. So we get on site with everyone, we align them on the problem, because you need to have a buy-in. In the bigger company, especially with the silos that might exist. So we get in the same room. We are not like visiting them in the suits and tell them you need to do this and that.
Yeah, corporate
Like,
stuff.
Okay. How did you do it for the 10 past years? It's just, okay, we have this problem. We bring in some examples. So if we talk about that sales process, we might bring in some HubSpot examples just to show them how they can visualize the pipeline or the deal stages. It's not that they don't know it, but you've been inside for such a long time that just bringing in some examples helps you think about some other solutions or the concepts that might help you. So we sketch those out, and it's a great joint discussion with them, and everyone feels involved. I think this is where the mindset shift also happens, when they participate in the whole process together with us.
You mentioned that some of them say that's the way that's always been done. There's no other way. Is that a common case? Because that also goes in that category that we mentioned before, company awareness.
Yeah.
Because some of them are, as we said, you need to also have the shift your mind, to digital thinking and the way of digital transformation. So did you have a lot of those cases, or?
I had the comments, it's always done like that, but we didn't get the comments, there's no other way. And I think we appreciate that with our clients. They are open-minded. And I think this is the prerequisite for the companies if they want to change. Be open-minded. And if you think there's no other way, explain why. Because there might not be another way, but maybe we need to change some business processes. Some, like the way how business decisions are made. And this is what actually happens in the overall process. Sometimes we get with a list of the questions and the things that need to be challenged by the board. How are we doing things the right way? Should we change a bit in order to be 10 times better? So yeah, they're not kind of either or. They recognize they're kind of baked into the old habits, but they're open to change.
And that actually, all those changes transfer to users. We met last week, and for the past week, I was thinking, let's say from a user point of view, about some things, that went through digital transformation and improved my life, and probably life of other people. One example is, for the last, 2 or 3 years, there are a lot of, those drop-off boxes popping up around Croatia.
Yeah.
DHL, GLS, Overseas Express. Yeah, exactly. I love those. Why? Because it saves a ridiculous amount of time for me, for you. Why am I saying this? Before, we had to go to the post office to pick something up if we weren't at home. So now you can literally click, I want my package to be dropped off here, and I can pick it up at any time, 11 p.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. And that's one of the things which I was actually quite curious about, why didn't those companies, think of that before? Maybe it was because of, COVID, so they started thinking that way, but it's really convenient. What do you think?
It might have been that fact that it's always been done like that. You went to the post office, you picked up your package, and it worked. But nobody maybe talked to you and tried to understand, like, is this convenient to you? Are you spending too much time? Like, are you satisfied with the services? And probably they had a lot of other, in their minds, more important things than you spending a lot of time to go from your apartment to the post office. But I think it might be that this COVID situation actually was a trigger to rethink that model and eventually maybe generate even more money because of the whole convenience.
Yeah, and I think they in this process, what you can notice from the courier company's perspective, that they, let's say, dropped the middleman, in this case the post office,
Absolutely.
Now, the courier can come and just, pop the packages into the lockers, and that's it.
Yeah.
And before they had to go to
Yeah.
the post office, scan everything and so on. Because when you open the locker, it registers that you picked it up.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't have to scan with the scanner,
Yeah.
barcode or anything else.
Yeah, it's not only convenient for you, it's also convenient for them. And that's the thing. When you do the planning, you kind of balance between the user value and the business value, of course, as well. And I think that that's exactly what they did in this case.
One of the odd cases that we talked about before I started recording was Walmart. The thing that they, when COVID started, after COVID, home delivery just, skyrocketed. And what was interesting, they found out after getting user feedback that people who get groceries delivered, they actually wanted for the delivery person to put the groceries in their fridge, which is a bit weird. Who would assume something like that?
Yeah. And that's the thing. You cannot assume that. You cannot just pop with different solutions all of a sudden. You need to be exposed to other needs, right? And I think you have a great point. When we talk to users, we don't ask them, well, okay, it seems frustrating. What would you do? You never do that. You never ask them for solutions, but you listen carefully. You listen, and probably in this case, they don't have time. They're busy doing other things, so they want to move that convenience level not to the front door, but basically to the fridge, like you mentioned. But they definitely talk to users to come up with that.
From your experience, did you have any cases like that where you yourself, as a, let's say, person that was researching, had a certain assumption about something, and then after you did the research, went through the data, said, okay, I didn't expect this to happen?
It happens on a regular basis. I think what I constantly need to do is move away from those assumptions. I need to be aware of them, but when you're doing that work, you have to be open-minded. Because if I'm biased and my client is already biased because they are deep in their product or the processes, then things won't work. So I might be surprised with the way those assumptions are validated, but yeah, I try to be kind of, everything is possible when we go into the process.
I think one of the big questions that your clients often ask themselves is, how long is this going to last?
Yeah.
Let's say, I don't know, I have a company that imports, I don't know, car parts. And I want to just, there are, let's say, bottlenecks in my supply chain. Everything's, I don't know, sometimes things might be late. And then, I don't know, maybe my whole storage gets, disorganized. That's just a hypothetical situation, and I just want to have some processes, set up so that I know what's happening, in every moment. So there's no, let's say, there's not a mess when that something like this happens. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Did you get the idea? I mean, I did go a little bit sideways, but
So the first thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, this is just coming to the top of my head, so I'm just getting deeper. Because when I was thinking, when I was talking, like, okay, so just problems arising, but all right, so let's start again. Let's say just I'm a car part dealer, and I want to have my business organized better.
Okay, so there might be different questions that they have. There might be concerns from their end, which is perfectly fine, and we need to talk about it from the start. Most common questions that we get is definitely how long it will take, because they are investing some time already for years. They don't want to wait a year to see some results. And this is why we work in some short focused phases, so they can start seeing the results in weeks, not months, because we also don't want to drag them for a year. It won't happen that we will disappear for 6 months or 12 months and then be back on an on-site workshop and say, okay, we figured things out. That won't happen. I think the goal is to have as small iterations as possible for them to get the confidence it won't mess up my current processes, even though they might be with the flaws, but they have a perception of the control, and they actually have the control over the whole process. So that's that time concern that they might be facing. It's also how involved I have to be because they are busy. And we don't obviously require a full-time commitment, but you need to be at our disposal because we want to get the input from the right people. We want to understand how does the success look like, what is your vision of the company and the product, what risks do you see, and we don't because we are not part of the company. So we really need to get this introduction right in order to help you later on.
So actually they can see some positive results within weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as I mentioned earlier, we start by talking to users just to get the alignment. But soon enough, we move into the workshop, on-site workshop. And what's the beauty of it is that on the workshop, we sketch some concepts that solve the pain points that we recognized through the interviews, right? Through the conversations with the user or stakeholders. And they already see things are moving forward. They see the solution. And then furthermore, if we create some visual concept of them, we are all visual beings. So when they see the end result and when they click through it on a prototype or whatever is the most convenient at that point, they can actually see like it will make things so much easier. Or we may get even the question, well, I thought it was going to work different way. That's also great feedback because we know we need to iterate before we go into the implementation phase. We are saving money long term and the time in the whole process. In the end, it's also like you have the functional specification. So that's also the result that they can see in weeks because they can use it and give it to the vendors or in the procurement process or just to the internal teams and say, these are the things we need to build, but it won't be forcing them to build it because they've already been involved in the whole process. No, so everyone already has bought in that project. Everyone is motivated to solve it. Everyone sees the solution. So the whole implementation is much easier with that approach.
Does it ever end? I mean, I can think,
okay.
that there are cases where you need to solve a problem and that's it. But I can bet that there are a lot of cases when there's, where you go through continuous digital transformation.
Absolutely. Like it's the continuous product development. Because you're learning as you go, right? So in that maybe initial project, you will take and fight the key pain points. You will solve the key problems. You will obviously deprioritize some of the other ones. You will launch it either to the end consumers or that sales rep, internal sales rep. But then new problems will come up, not because we didn't solve them previously, just because it's the job, it's the name of the game. So it's a continuous process and you are learning as you go, you're getting insights, market is changing, so it never stops.
Well, what are your personal favorite success stories or projects that you worked on that you can of course mention?
Well, my favorite one is the one that I worked on, obviously. So we work with Valamar. We all know of the brand. It's a great brand. It's the leader in the hospitality, so in Croatia. And it's my favorite project because those prerequisites that we wish from the companies to happen, which are bare minimum, like stakeholder alignment, was great with them. So they were all aligned. They had the same vision of how does success look like, and they knew they needed to improve the B2B sales process.
Okay, that's interesting.
And the tools that support that process.
Because you would expect it's always B2C.
No, absolutely not.
I was thinking, okay, hotels, so it means, customers,
it can
guests,
be.
yeah.
We are working also on the B2C parts of it.
Of course, but I would never, I would actually first presume it's always about B2C, but not B2B if it's about a hotel.
I think we can simplify it and say it's always about the user. So
yeah.
If it's B2B or B2C, you have someone using your products and your services, right? And even you, wherever you are employed, you are using some of the digital solutions to help you do your job, right? So you are the user in this case. Right, so Valamar, for example, so we stepped in, we got a shared understanding of the problem, so we designed a concept that helps support their process, but not only their process as it is, but we improved that process through the discovery and the workshops because we recognize some inefficiencies, right? So we designed the solution for that ideal process, right? Because some business decisions were made to address those problems. And then in the end, we ended up with the functional specification, with the requirements. They shared it with the vendors and they chose a vendor so they moved to the implementation on their own. They weren't locked to us. I think that's also the beauty of it. We are not stepping in and say, you will be with us for 30 years. We wish.
Yeah.
Because
perfect scenario. Yeah.
It's a perfect scenario because there are so many problems we can help with. But the point isn't to log them with our specification and to make some modification only from our end. You do you. We are always here to help. We have the knowledge, but you can also continue on your own.
Okay, how long did it last? Because as we mentioned, how long did I mean, it depends, of course, but how long did this one last?
Yeah, I need to remember. I think the whole thing from just talking with the stakeholders and getting to know the problem and understand the process till the functional specification, it was around 3 months, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an intensive project just because there were a lot of parties involved. But what we see with them and other clients, they are willing to change. So it's not that you have to plan for the workshop for, I don't know, 3 months or something like that.
Any other cases maybe that come up on your mind?
We work with Frey, and that's also a great example. It's a continuous collaboration with them for a few years now. And I think we're so proud that we can really see how they are user-centric. They want to talk to the users. They are not building based on their internal requests. So they're always they recognize that they always need to talk to users and continuously modify and upgrade their products and the processes.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Is there no, I think we really went through some of the important parts. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about specifically?
I mean, if we talk about that, to sum it up, maybe, if we talk about that digital transformation, or I really, that word, something is off with that. So I will take the freedom to call it the digital innovation. So if we talk about that, we know that the enterprises are trying hard. They are investing. into the reorganization, into the new tools. But the thing is that that effort doesn't mean the impact. So you want to get to the point where you see, okay, I created a product that my users are satisfied with. I don't get that much of a negative feedback, or even worse, they drop off. So I want to see a continuous usage of it. Internally, I want my employees to be faster, not busier. I want that everyone in the company and my users say, this works, this is good. So if that doesn't happen, it's just about asking the right questions, either internally or bringing us to ask those questions. And one thing come to my mind. It's not that you have to wait for that new project in 6 months because you already started another one. It's never the right timing. Now, right timing is now. Even though you have invested a lot before, it won't be necessarily thrown away because it isn't about the tools. It's about the needs and what you're actually trying to solve. So the timing is now. The right timing is now.
Can you think of any specific industry that really, really needs to go through digital transformation? I know there are a lot of them, but is there any specific?
I think it's every industry,
every
industry, and they are already going through it. But every industry, there's always an opportunity for improvement, right? And to leverage what's out there from the technology to optimize the processes.
Even IT companies. I always find it funny, let's use Decode as an example. When I listen, let's say, to our CEO, when he says, 2-3 years ago, we had completely different, processes and stuff like that. And now as we're growing, we're constantly learning. And, it's actually, and I think that's the case in your company as well. You both, actually, it's your job to improve other companies, but you can also use yourself as an example.
Absolutely. We are always constantly improving, learning how to better serve our clients, how our employees can be more satisfied. That's why it's so natural for me to think of it as a continuous process. And I think everyone who's in the business thinks the same.
Yeah, that's it. I think I don't have anything else to ask you.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, no. I think I've been thinking, but I don't think I have any more questions. Then that's it, I guess.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming, being our third guest. This is our, I think, 26th episode, so that makes Resonate 1/10 of our guests on our podcast. So I could probably expect somebody else coming from your company.
Absolutely.
This might become a tradition. So
yeah, why not?
yeah.
We are all for it.
Petra, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sven.